coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 482. Gary's here, and we've got lots to talk about. Gary's finally got his new EV, and he's going to be telling us what he's got, why he got it, and some of the features of it. I've got a new device here. Yeah, it's the Surface Laptop Studio, which I'm very excited to try. New update for Windows 11 for tablet users, so I'm giving that a go with my Surface Go, and updates for Surface Duo, and lots more. So let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening. We've fought the vagaries of teams and we've won.
Yes, yeah, for this week.
This week.
Yeah, and we should say happy birthday to Richard, who's not here this week because it's his birthday. Although not when he's listening to this, but anyway, that's a time traveling thing. But yeah, happy birthday to Richard. So we've got a great show planned for this week. We have got the new builds of Windows 11 with some new features in, especially for tablets. So I've got my Surface Go here. I've got a new device. You've got a new device that we want to talk about. So let's start with that. So we've been teasing this enough now for weeks now. Have you got a new car?
I have got a new car at last. It took a while. I picked it up today. So I have got a Kia EV6 GT Line S all-wheel drive with heat pump, just to be absolutely precise. Which is the top of the range you can get. So if anybody's watched my video on YouTube of the review I did of the on my test drive of a Kia EV6, that was a rear-wheel drive only version. This is the all-wheel drive, so it's somewhat faster. It's almost up to the same sort of speed acceleration as my iPace was. It's not quite up to sport mode was on my iPace, but it's as good, if not better, than normal mode was on my iPace, and that's good enough for me. Handles really well. But the key advantages, and we've mentioned this before about the high-end Kia, they've got this 800-volt charging, which means it charges incredibly rapidly. Even on 50-kilowatt chargers, you get high charge rates even right to the end of up to sort of 90%. And it also has quite a long range. When I picked it up today, it was really weird today because I picked it up at 80%. It was showing 200 miles, just over 200 miles. I drove 30 miles. It was showing 208 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the way you're driving, isn't it? The way that the previous person drove it, I'm guessing.
Well, it hadn't done many miles up to that point. Yeah. But up to that point, anyway, he's only had 14 miles on the clock when I picked it up. So it's obviously had some big. So obviously this has been a long story. This car has actually been sitting at the dealership since November.
Right.
So the company would not accept the car until they'd sorted a few issues which Kia have had with heating issues out. And that's been partly software, partly components, and it's taken a long while to do that. The other thing was that there was one of the requirements for this car this time was to have a tow bar, and although they thought they could fit the tow bar quickly, it's taken them to last week to actually get the tow bar fitted as well, to get the parts in. It's just generally parts of the pain to get hold of at the moment. I think they had the tow bar but didn't have the wiring loom. But anyway, it's a very neat tow bar. It's detachable and swings up inside underneath the car. Not the tow bar bit, but the electrics do quite nicely. So you can't really notice it has a tow bar fitting unless you actually fit the tow bar. So it comes with all sorts of bits and pieces. It's got a granny charger and which is the one you plug into a 13 amp pin plug in, in case anybody doesn't know what a granny charger is, because it's a term which is used by the EV community, but I guess anybody else wouldn't actually know what that means.
So that's a normal 3-pin plug type one.
Yeah, normal 3-pin plug, 13 amp. Yeah. Doesn't charge very quickly, but it's useful sometimes. There are certain shopping centres where they have rows of 3-pin plugs where you can plug into, and if you're shopping for 2 or 3 hours, you might get as much charge in as you needed to drive over there. So it can be quite good, useful to have that. Comes with a Type 2 cable. Not all cars come with both of those. Some of them don't come with any. Some of them come with some. It's more usual to have a Type 2 than it is the 30 amp. It also comes with the vehicle to load adapter, which is quite nice. That's the thing where you can plug it into the outside socket on the car and plug a 13 amp plug into it.
Yeah.
And use that to run whatever you want to run. Kettles, as we said last week, Andy Van Til kept the street going when they had a power cap on his hand, and that's quite useful. I mean, I think the problem thing I'll probably use it for is hoovers and stuff like that. To do that. So and outside broadcast equipment. That's the other thing I thought about. You could park it up and set up your outside broadcast and recording equipment, sort of mixing desk, and plug that into the car.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. That'd be quite cool. There's also a 13 amp plug actually in the car as well, 3-pin plug. So you can sit there and run your laptop. So you can actually use it as an office quite easily. You've got all the connectivity in there as well. So it's generally really good. And what's really surprised me is the amount of space in it. It's actually slightly narrower than my iPad was, but it feels wider on the inside. And it's about the same length, but it feels long. It feels more like there's more space inside. And there definitely is more space inside. There's a lot more space for the back passengers than there was in the hotel, because it has things like when you open the door, the seat goes back to allow you to get in easy access. And if I'd done that in the iPace, it wouldn't have had anywhere to go because it was butting right up against the girls' car seats. Whereas now there's plenty of room for it to go back. So, yeah, it's a nice car. I'm impressed with it so far. I haven't driven it much, but I'm impressed with it so far. I have to get around all the connectivity and stuff. It's quite interesting these days. When you get a new car, it's all about getting the connectivity set up. It's all about getting your apps set up and 3 apps to set up and charging things to set up and everything like that. But it does seem to have a lot of the features you'd want in an EV.
Yeah, I suppose you've got all the parking apps and all those kind of things. You've got to change those over nowadays, haven't you? Like charging apps.
All those set up, to get the charging apps set up. I mean, charging apps aren't too bad normally. And there's a Kia app charge, which comes with this car, which has got some discounts on Ionity and the like, which I need to get that set up. But I took it over and plugged it into an Instavolt today, and that charged really nicely. So charging flaps at the rear. It's got an indicator on it of how it's charging. There's a lot of things I miss. I found difficult on the iPad. They seem to have addressed on this one. There's some things from the iPad I miss. I think the main thing is not having a maps in the binnacle. It does have navigation, but not the map. So you have to move your eyes over to look at the map, which is okay, I guess. Head-up display is good. I mean, it's pretty fully loaded. The automation stuff on it is really good. The steering system, the highway driving system, so that's all good. Even if it is likely to disappear in the next release of this car because of the component shortage. So they'll probably go back to standard adaptive cruise rather than this highway driving assist they've got currently, which allows you to do all sorts of good things. I mean, one of the things it did, like, it got me today actually. I was on one of the roads it recognised for HD8T. Which has to be on what they class as motorways or A roads with motorway sections, and it actually will move you in the lane if it notices a car coming into the lane beside you. So if you've got someone drifting over the line, yeah. And I suddenly my car started moving in the lane. I thought, what's going on? And I looked over my shoulder. I looked over the mirror, and there was a lorry which had just drifted across the lane beside me, and it pushed, and the car just moved over slightly to get out of the way of it, which I thought was quite nice, without moving into the other lane. So that was good. Clever stuff. Loads of cameras on it. I don't think I've seen a car before which has got 2 rear cameras. Which is quite interesting, but it definitely gives you a really good view. So far so good. Very pleased with it. But we will see. And it's a lot cheaper than the iPace was, particularly on insurance. That's the one which has really got me. It's half the price of the iPace on the insurance. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I suppose you've done your figures on your calculation. You charge everything. So what do you normally do now? Do you charge it when you're at home, or do you charge it when you're out and about?
So now I have got a charger at home, which is obviously the cheapest way to do it overnight. I mean, obviously electricity prices are going through the roof at the moment, so that doesn't help. But then again, petrol prices are going through the roof at the moment as well. But I still get a very good overnight rate on charging. So that's by far the most economical way to do it. It's still pence per kilowatt rather than tens of pence per kilowatt. So and that means sort of because the other nice thing about this is it's a smaller battery but goes further than the iPad. So obviously it costs less to charge being a smaller battery. So it actually means that around about 250 miles, I did the maths yesterday, I think is £8 on my overnight charge. So it's not bad at all.
No, definitely not. No, I mean that costs you like 40 quid or something like that at the moment with petrol.
Yeah. So it's good. And obviously out and about the prices have gone up. So it's not quite so economical to charge out and about. But there are some good ways of actually reducing the price of charging. We've got an interview, which I'll plug in a couple of weeks' time with a company called Bonnet, which I actually did back at 45 Live, but their service is now up and running far more in the UK. And basically what they do is they allow you to prepay for charging, and then they reduce the rate you get charged at the chargers. So most of the chargers now are charging around about 40 to 50 pence a kilowatt, and you can get down to sort of 30s of pence, 35 pence per kilowatt with using their prepay scheme, which is reasonable. The way to do it. I honestly have a subscription model now. You can reduce the price there. So there's ways of reducing the cost of charging down when you're out and about. But most people who, I always say this, most people who've got an EV at the moment tend to have off-street parking and have the ability to charge. As it expands, I know there is a big push at the moment for on-street parking chargers in cities and towns. I know Manchester is one of the areas that's really looking at that. That will happen over the next 2 to 3 years, I'm pretty sure. So that'll make that feasible for people to charge. But there's always the thing about people who live in cities where there aren't that many chargers on the street is most of the supermarkets are starting to get chargers in. So you can go shopping and do charging while you go shopping, and some of those are starting to get higher charge rate charges in. So you'd be able to. I mean, my local Lidl's got a 50 kilowatt charger in, which is if you go shopping and plug it in a 50 kilowatt charger, by the time you come back from shopping, you're pretty much fully charged.
Yeah.
So there are ways and means of doing it, and those are slightly subsidised costs as well. They're cheaper than the rest of the chargers out there, and I know that one of the companies has just done a deal with Shell. I don't know if it's Mark Spencer or Waitrose, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But one of them have done a deal with Shell to put their chargers in their supermarkets. So we're going to see this more and more. Destination charging. And as we had that interview not so long ago where we talked about dwell times are going to be interesting in how you actually structure what speed of charge you put in a location. It's going to make, I mean, it's definitely going to be usable. And especially with this the speed of charging you'll get on this new car. I mean, this is what's going to happen going forward. There's a really interesting video out. I'll see if I can find a link to send you of a couple of gentlemen doing a trip from Sydney to Melbourne in Australia, which is a long way. One takes a petrol car, one takes an EV to do it, and the EV charges as it has to. And the EVs, is a bit slower to get there than the petrol car, but it took 40 minutes longer to get there than the petrol car did. But the guy driving the petrol car said he actually wished he'd stopped for 40 minutes halfway because he tried to drive through and do it. He sort of almost artificially tried to, because he wanted to win the race effectively. He kept saying, well, I'd been far more comfortable if I'd actually taken a break. And the guys, they were using the Hyundai, which has got the same charging as my car has got, and they were finding that they could not have a break before the car had charged to the point where they wanted to go. So by the time they'd gone in to have a restroom break and maybe a coffee, the car was fully charged every single time, and it was just doing SIP charges. So they were able to stop for 10, 15, 20 minutes, usually every 2 hours for a break, and then get back on the road. Which seems to me eminently sensible to stop every 2 hours. But yeah, so it's definitely crowded. But that was really interesting to see that and how that's going to change, because that then changes the metrics for these charge points. One of the things which I constantly say at the moment is there's not enough charge points. But if you've got cars which can charge really quickly, they're not going to hang around on those charge points that long. So the next person getting on and get charging. So there's a lot going on at the moment. It's really interesting to see.
Excellent. Well, looking forward to hearing how you get on with that, and I'm guessing you're documenting all this for your it'll be on my YouTube channel. I've got loads of video from today, so it'll be interesting to see I'll put all that together. It's going to take me a week to edit it, I suspect. Excellent. Well, from one new thing onto another.
I'm excited by this.
New thing to show you here. So I was going to use this to do the recording tonight, but I thought, no, actually, I'll save it so that I can show you the thing on camera before I start switching over to recording it. So I'm still on the laptop at the moment, but yeah. So here we have the laptop studio, and I tell you, the first thing I've noticed is when you go from lid closed to open, and with it's always on. It feels like it's always on because Windows Hello is so quick on this that the resume from a sort of deep sleep to sort of open Windows Hello, it's really quick. So it comes on really quick. So I did notice that. But build quality is superb on this. Just the little design finishes, everything is nice and curved. It's actually quite chunky. It feels quite chunky compared to the laptop. It's quite a bit thicker. It's definitely more in the Surface Book kind of design than the Surface laptop. But of course, what this has got, I can show this on screen, is the tilting display.
Yeah.
So which you can then put it into studio posture, I think it's called, which actually is really good for, especially I was doing some video editing, and it's great for video editing because you don't need the keyboard, but you do want the big trackpad and you want the screen right there. So that works really well. So trackpad as well is excellent with the haptic feedback. It completely fools you. This actually, I don't even know. I can hear it clicking. It feels. If you hadn't told me it was haptic and told me it was mechanical, that it clicks down, I would believe you. It feels really. That trackpad is lovely as well. The keyboard is lovely. But of course, and then the other thing you can do, you can go further with it like that and have it sort of in that mode, or you can go all the way with it and have it as one giant tablet. And of course, it's got the auto rotate. So it's a very big tablet at this stage. Yeah. So, but it works great as a tablet. You got the pen there as well. Which the pen works brilliantly on it as well. It's got the haptic feedback on the pen as well. You can only just feel it, but it has got a little bit of resistance it feels like resistance when you're using the pen. So where you use on the old pens, it felt, it's very smooth and it's almost like floating, but this, you can just feel that little resistance on there. It seems to do it in some apps, not all apps. Yeah, the pen's nice and you've got the buttons to launch it, everything else, and it charges up the pen while it's on there as well. Actually, something as you know with charging, it's a smart charging on it. So it doesn't whack it straight to 100%. It pauses it. It says pause for smart charging, and I think the Surface app actually shows you. I don't know if it'll show it now, but it's got some intelligent charging built into it, so that it's. I presume this is to save the battery life, not the battery, the number of charge times and things like that you get out of a device. So it'll say sort of charging, and then it'll say charging, smart charging suspended or something like that, because it's at 89%, so it doesn't need to to push it all the way or something like that. So that's quite interesting. But and the screen as well will continue to go all the way around, and you can have it that way completely backwards now. So yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that presentation mode, the presentation posture, isn't it? That's really useful at times.
So it's a really interesting display technology. I've found they used the studio posture with it pulled forward quite a bit. I do like that, but it's a superb device in terms of build and feel. I've done a bit of video editing with it, and obviously it's nice and quick. It's silent. I've got the i5 model with 16 gig of RAM, 512 SSD, so the extra RAM is great for Hyper-V stuff, and I've got plenty of space now to store my Hyper-V images on there, so which is what I wanted for. So yeah, it's a very nice device. It's certainly got a premium feel to it. Just the whole design of it. Like I say, it feels a bit heavier than the Surface laptop, but it is meant to be. I think it's a bigger device with that screen rotation, but it would certainly make a good development machine. You could push it out further and get an i7 if you wanted with 32 gig of RAM. You start to add up the costs then, though. The costs go up, but for me, that spec does great. So yeah, really like doing that. The Surface app is pretty good as well, because it shows you've got your earbuds connected, your pen and your dock and everything else. So that's been pretty good. So far really liking that been great for. I mean, just in the past with only 8 gig of RAM, when I've been doing the Hyper-V stuff, I had to make sure everything's closed Edge, closed Teams, everything else, because a virtual Windows 11 needs at least 4 gig, and it was always running out of memory. So that solves that problem for me. So yeah, really like doing that. Yeah, really enjoyed using that. So very pleased with that so far. So far so good with that. I do like that. So I did do a video of the unboxing and sort of first impressions. So the plan is probably to do a video next week of, because I keep finding things that it can do and things like that. Of course, it's Thunderbolt 4 as well, and there's just the 2 Type-C ports on the side there, and then the Surface dock as well. And the Dell dock that I use for my work laptop works perfectly. That's a USB-C dock. That works with it as well. So actually it works really well. I can just put it in and use the same dock from a Dell and the same dock for the Surface. Instead of, at the moment, I've got a Surface dock and the Dell dock on the desk, so I can actually just go down to one dock, really. And the Surface docks are expensive as well. I think they're like nearly 200 quid. So you can get a lot of USB-C docks out there that are a lot cheaper than that. So, and it comes with a big chunky charger as well. Which is, so the charger is, I think it's a 65-watt charger, but it's got the USB Type A port on there for charging as well. You probably charge your car off this, but it feels a big chunky charger compared to the other ones, the other Surface ones.
I wonder if my car will actually manage to charge that.
Yeah. So you could probably use the Type-C port on the Surface to charge your car, actually. But yeah. So Thunderbolt, very good. So external drives and things like that would be great. So for video editing, once you get you need a lot of space, then when you send me those nice files over, I could have an external Thunderbolt port drive or something like that. But yeah, it's really good. So I really enjoyed using that so far. So far so good on that one. It's a really nice device. It's the most premium device I've ever had, probably. So yeah, very, very nice. So this week we had, or last week we had a few updates from the Windows Insider team. So the week before we had a huge update, and this week it's not quite as big as the previous week, but still some nice stuff in there, in particular for tablet users. So for this, I'm going to go to my Surface Go, and I'll. So this was build 22563, and it has the new taskbar. So you can see on there, I've got the little. There's no start menu. There's no taskbar on there at all at the moment. That's because so it's hidden. So I swipe up like that. And the button there. Actually, it needs a reboot because there's a bug. I'm gonna do the reboot on it as well. So I can show you properly. There is a bug in this that it resorts back to the old menu, which is what that's done. So let me reboot that. Let me balancing devices around here. Yeah, this is quite a buggy build actually. This around the start menu. In fact, if you have this on a normal PC that's not a tablet PC, if you right click on the start button, it crashes the start menu completely, and that's to do with this new tablet stuff. So I'll just restart my Surface Go, and I'll show you a bit more of that. But basically what happens is you get that little collapsed bar. You swipe up and you get very big row of icons across the bottom, which are all nice and finger friendly, and then you can swipe up again and get the full start menu. The swipe up thing was introduced on the previous build, but now you've got this new menu on there, and it actually works really well. It's for a tablet user, it's much better than the other way. I mean, think back to Windows 10, there was no real tablet mode. It just spaced the icons out a little bit more. But on this, it's a lot better. So they've done quite a good job with that. There's some other things that they've done with this build. Widgets are supposed to have dynamic content Now I've customized mine, so it says that they're not overriding stuff, but I think that is the, rather than just presenting you a generic widget section, if you've not customized it, it has dynamic based on your interests, and then you can then take that a bit further and customize it, which looks quite good. It does some other things like File Explorer, quick access. They show icons now if they're from OneDrive, so you could add OneDrive content in there into quick access, and it treats it as the same as online content, as local content as well, with the icons and everything else. Alt tabbing shows up, and Snap Assist shows up with your recent Edge tabs as well. So there's quite a few bits and pieces that they've changed with this, and I actually think the main thing really is the tablet optimization. So I really do like that. So let's see if I can show you this now with. So currently that's the normal way with the icons on the bottom. I detach my keyboard. Okay, that might be easy to show you now. So there we go. We've got the collapsed start menu.
Yeah.
Swipe up and you get the big buttons. And then I swipe up again and I get the start menu. And I swipe down and it collapses again. Which
is nice for a tablet. Really nice for a tablet. And
they've changed some of the auto rotation UI as well, makes it a bit smoother. But yeah, I think that's just a nice little thing. So it's not a full tablet UI like Windows 8, but it does look better than it did before. So and some of the other ways that they've done with the Snap Assist as well works well on your finger when you can drag a window up and then it automatically snaps. So it was on the previous build as well. That's all improved. So it's been pretty good actually. I did find a bit of a weird bug on the previous build on this. My mouse and keyboard would stop working after about 30 seconds, which is a bit weird. I filed a bug report for it, and actually if you went into Device Manager and just did scan for update, everything would come back in. So I think what it was actually doing was some kind of power saving mode, but that has gone away in this build as well. So that's good. But yeah, tablet mode working better. So not a huge amount of tablet users through Windows 11, but if you've got something like the Surface Go or a Surface Pro, or even when you get the Surface Laptop Studio in tablet mode, you can swipe, get rid of that taskbar as well. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these new features actually that they introduced in the last couple of builds I'm missing now. The one that I think they missed the most is the one with being able to create folders on the start menu of your icons. I think when I go back to the release build, I kind of missed that, but I'm resisted the temptation of putting the dev build on the Surface Laptop Studio. I'm keeping that on release preview for now. I'm not pushing myself that far, but anyway. So that was the main changes with this build. There was a lot of other fixes included in there as well. So I've done a usual video of that, but with these improvements are really impressive in the last couple of weeks. We've had a lot of changes. So we do know that the Windows Insider team has said that they're going to give us the opportunity to switch out of dev channel and go to beta channel at some point in the next few weeks. They're going to align again. So perhaps some of these features might even make their way to the beta channel, and then we've seen. But they've said that these features might show up, they might not show up. So that start menu tablet mode might never show, might not ship. It just depends on the testing feedback. But it's looking like there's going to be a fairly substantial update to Windows 11 later this year with all these changes, which is good to see. Also for Surface Duo users 1 and 2, there was updates out for both devices last week as well. Minor changes, but a few things around the camera and auto rotation, camera focusing. I did notice that on after the last update, you could see it focusing, trying to grab that focus, especially in video mode, so it would focus and then try zoom out and focus again. And they seem to have resolved that with this build as well, so that's quite good. So updates plenty last week for Windows and for Android for Surface Duo users. So those are all my updates for last week. It'd be interesting to see what they do with this Windows 11 when we get this syncing period, whether it's with this week or next week. They said soon, so they've not actually officially sort of said when that's going to happen. Now, what else did we have to talk about this week?
I don't know if you saw the sort of tweet thread which went on earlier this week about ARM power toys.
Oh, I've seen. I've seen a couple of our MVPs talking about this. So so is this whether power toys is available for ARM?
Yeah, basically putting out on the ARM build as native ARM. I mean, Clint's basically said that it's something they want to do. It's not quite there yet, but yeah, it's definitely they are definitely looking at it. I mean, he's basically said that there's one dependency with some testing time blocking power toys for Windows and ARM. So they're going to hopefully that's going to get there and be available. I mean, it might be nice for your little device you've got your Windows 11 running on.
Yeah, so I've got my the Raspberry Pi 400. It was the Raspberry Pi's 10th anniversary this week, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yes, it was indeed. So it's good to see. I mean, it's amazing. It seems amazing it's been around that long now.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, 10 years of the Pi, and it shows they've come a long way from what you could do, and now they've got these really sophisticated devices, and then you've got the tiny little Pico ones, and yeah, they're everywhere now, aren't they? And if you want to start a homebrew project, it's just the go-to device, really, isn't it? Yeah, and actually, you mentioned about ARM as well. I did see that Lenovo have announced an ARM ThinkPad, which I think is the first one, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. And I mean, there was always the rumours that other OEMs would come up with ARM-based devices. Just hadn't seen them, but yeah, it's good to see something out there.
Yeah, so that's it was at MWC this week. So it's the Thinkpad X13, and that's ARM powered. So it's good to see other OEMs coming up with ARM stuff as well, because otherwise it's just Microsoft. In fact, when I was getting the laptop studio last year, I did think I nearly bought Pro X. But yeah, that sort of put me off. With the versatility of it, put me off that it would be a very specific use case, whereas you get an Intel device and it can do everything. So I think there's still around that, but the more devices that we see that support ARM, then or running ARM, then we get things like power toys and other applications that can take advantage of that. I haven't seen a lot else from MWC this week, actually. I should say so that ThinkPad is the Snapdragon 8CX Gen 3 processor that it's running as well. And it comes with Windows 11 Pro, whereas the laptop studio comes with Windows 10 Home. Yeah, so I think it's a funny choice, isn't it? That I suppose if the Microsoft is selling devices through the consumer channel, then they're selling them in home, and I think you can go through the enterprise or through the business, Surface for Business, and get the Pro version. But I actually upgraded that Home to Pro because you can't do Hyper-V without Pro. It's when you're paying for a premium device like that, it kind of feels a bit wrong that you're not getting Windows 11 Pro.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, I had to get an upgrade for that because I needed Hyper-V, and there's probably ways around it, but it's just simpler just to go with Pro, and plus there's a few other things that I want to use. But actually, in my case, it's not domain joined, but it just seemed daft, but a little bit stingy not to give you the Windows 11 Pro, but then you've got this ThinkPad, which is the ARM version that comes with Pro. But I suppose that's the market that they're aiming for. It's the enterprise market. That ThinkPad as well is $1,099, which is pretty much comparable with the Pro X, isn't it? So
it is, yeah.
It's really interesting to see what Microsoft do with the Pro X. It's kind of we had this discussion before. It was kind of in the past. It was kind of the leading edge Surface design, and if you wanted something with extra battery and everything else, then that was the one to go for. But now the Surface Pro has kind of caught up to it. The Pro 8. What they do happen? What did they do then with the Pro X line?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other thing I saw Microsoft announced today as well, that Richard might be pleased to see, is that Flight Simulator is coming to the Xbox One via Xbox Cloud Gaming. So you can now get Flight Simulator on PC and on Xbox One through the Microsoft Cloud Gaming, which is a subscription I haven't tried because I don't think I get that sort of my use out of it, but it looks a good idea. But I think actually for something like Flight Simulator, it was a pretty good use because I found that Flight Simulator really hammered my laptop. And if you can run it on a custom Xbox in the cloud, then yeah, maybe I could get something like Surface Go can run Flight Simulator. Plug an Xbox controller in there, and you've got a nice little gaming ring. So I actually think I would like to give that a try at some point because it does seem to be a good solution. I think for some games, like if you've got an Xbox, then you've got a lot of local processing power. But if you're running on a lightweight device, or even a laptop without a dedicated GPU in there, then the Xbox Game Cloud seems a good way to do it. And something like Flight Simulator is ideal for that because it's just a very resource hungry application. It dragged my gaming laptop ground that to a halt. So yeah, we'll see if Richard's giving that a try. I don't know whether he's tried some of the streaming. I was talking to one of my friends who's using it, and he said it works pretty well actually. The game streaming, it just works. So I think playing Flight Simulator on Xbox would be good. I'm surprised they haven't got the game directly available on there. Maybe you can get it. I'm not sure, but I know it's PC. I play it on PC anyway. But I thought that was quite nice actually to give a good scenario for cloud gaming is something like Flight Simulator. And not just the fact that the massive updates every time they do an update. There's gigabytes of updates. There's so much content on there. So I guess they can. That's a much more streamlined approach to distributing that as well, rather than having to download gigabytes onto local machines. It's all cloud based. Okay, what else did we have for this week?
I just been spending too much time running around my car. You see, that's
yeah. So when you get a new car, especially even a petrol car, when I got my new car last year, there's so much you've got to set up, like you mentioned, about even just getting to Spotify working and getting used to the UI and the maps and Google Play and everything else. So I think with an EV, it's even more complicated, isn't it? So you've got even more to do.
Even more to do, yes. And I think it's just not just EVs. I mean, those EVs tend to be technologically advanced, so they tend to have all apps and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, most cars are starting to get that way. It's just setting up so many things. Tonight I've had to set up. There's the My Kia account, which is all about the servicing and everything. That's all done online now, so you have to have the account for that. You've got the Kia Connect, which is the control for the car, and then you've got Kia Charge to do the charging. It's just a lot of things to sort out.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's just like even just like setting up the Surface. You've got to actually, when you set up a new Windows 11 device, you still don't quite get that experience. I think it was Windows 8, wasn't it, that used to be able to. It used to sync all your settings and everything else, but Windows 11 it does bring some things over, but not a lot of stuff. So you've still got to do a lot of things to get going. In fact, I think the best thing is if you set Edge up with Edge syncing or I suppose Google Chrome as well. You don't have to try and remember all your URLs, favorites, and passwords and usernames. That's really handy. Actually, it's probably the biggest time saver in all of it, is to get your Edge syncing. Make sure you've got that all up and running. Right, well, I think that's just about everything we've got for this week's show. So, Garry, where can we find you and your all your new videos that you're going to have to try and find the time to edit?
I am at Garry WMA on Twitter. That's Garry with 2 R's, WMA, and it's the EV Owner channel on YouTube, which I will link for my Twitter feed quite regularly, I guess, to show what I'm doing. Also find me on fascinatingtech.com as well. I will be doing a full review of the EV6 on there as well. So yeah, all good stuff. Excellent.
Well, you can find me at ISDixon on Twitter and on YouTube, where I've been doing the videos of the Surface Laptop Studio. I've got a few how-to videos. I did this one this week for how to go from Windows 10 Home to Windows 11 Home to Windows 11 Pro. It's actually relatively straightforward, but I thought I'd capture that. I've also got one coming up on Hyper-V. I've got one on content sharing. And I've got one on how to install Windows 11 on the Raspberry Pi 400. So I'm just finishing that one off. So there's a fantastic new tool as well in the Microsoft Store called Deploy that will really help you do that. Also works with the Lumia 950 as well. So look out for those videos soon. So we should be back next week with Richard, and we'll see what Microsoft builds we get for this week, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, take care. Cheers.